Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Firstly, I'd like to start by thanking you for your time today, as it gives me great pleasure to give you an inside look at what the future of condition monitoring looks like here at Neutronic. So without further ado, let's take a look. At Neutronic, we're very fortunate to serve customers from a whole wide range of different industries, whether it be from the automotive, food and drink, paper factories, you name it, we've dealt with them, and we've got the guys here with all the expertise to cover any industry, even as far and wide as offshore oil and gas facilities. In terms of our condition monitoring, we're already offering your more traditional handheld vibration data collection, thermal imaging of equipment and electrical panels on site. We also offer alignment and balancing services. But as I said, today is about the future of condition monitoring, and I'd like to introduce to you our newest offering, which is wireless condition monitoring. Whether condition-based monitoring is something you already implement on your site, or if it's something that you're looking to do in the future, wireless sensors are absolutely the next step. Why? Because the amount of data that you'll be getting from those sensors, as opposed to someone like myself coming to site once a month, these sensors will give you the ability to get a reading almost live. By all means, you can set the sensors to take live readings if it's on a critical piece of equipment. You'll just go through the battery a lot quicker. But if you keep them programmed to their specified limits, you can achieve a battery life of 3 to 5 years in the sensor. It can be changed, so it's not a case of the battery goes, you have to buy a new sensor, which would obviously be extremely costly. Fortunately, wireless condition monitoring is now becoming more affordable. And looks to be even more so than ever. Some of the main benefits of that are the large data sets and the learnings that you can make from that, the 24/7 monitoring, and the live alerts straight to key personnel on site. The sensors are easy to install from the second that they're on the machine. As long as they're connected to the gateway, we'll be getting data. So you'll be making learnings as soon as the sensors are in place, and there's no need to start rolling it out across the whole site. What a lot of our customers have done is start on the critical pieces of equipment, and then scaled up from there as they've sort of seen the rewards from what having a wireless system in place on site can look like. So the sensors that we're using, they're monitoring vibration and temperature. So that can obviously lead us to the analysis that it allows us to do is brilliant, really. Having the not only the vibration, but obviously the effect that that's having on the temperature. If you're working in sort of like a paper factory, it can be really valuable information to have if you're monitoring the lights, if you roll the bearings, or even just your motors on site. The sensors are ATEX rated, so depending on what environment they're being used in, it's a really safe way to collect data. So obviously, past the point of install, there's then not the need for a reliability engineer to come visit site and go to that machine local every time. If it's in a harmful environment or sort of a harder to access area, then it's a really effective way to continue collecting data without the need for regular permits if it's something like in a confined space or working at height. And as I mentioned, the fact that the sensor's serviceable and we can change the battery once you've sort of purchase the sensor, if you like. It's something that can be maintained and doesn't need to be thrown away. It's just a case of changing the battery, and it's good to go for the next term of contract. So from personal experience, I guess sort of like my average handheld data collection site will be really lucky to sort of get 1 to 2 readings, well, definitely 1 reading per month, but 2 and then a maximum of maybe 3 readings per month if it's a case of the engineer coming to site to collect the data and you don't own the data collector yourself, kind of thing. So by having the wireless sensors taking a reading, as I said, every hour, you're getting 24 readings per day, which over the course of the year is over 8,000 readings. And it's not just the amount of readings that's beneficial, it's the time-stamped data. So you'll obviously be able to track the effects of what product has on the vibration of the machine and the reliability, and therefore obviously your production levels during certain periods of operation, and you'll be able to sort of really be able to make decisions to maximize your production and your efficiencies. And as I said, like that time-stamped data will then give you the evidence to suggest when your plant is operating best, and then make the decisions to operate within these limits going forward. So as I said, the large data sets can give you that traceability to make more informed decisions on your site. But also what you can do is like your future learnings. So from the database, you can actually extract the data. So if you then wanted to do further sort of machine learning algorithm application via sort of data science methods, then that's something that you can do with your data. You own the data, so essentially once it's downloaded from the sensor to the gateway, you can learn at your own will and use it in as much detail or as little detail as you need, because obviously the way they work is if your machine is within acceptable limits, you'll see a green status, and then we'll go up to a red status for anything that's unacceptable or needs closer attention, via your yellow, which is something that you're going to be sort of mindful of, but maybe not sort of intervening in the first instance. So you may now start to be wondering what this system is going to look like when you deploy it on your site. Well, in the first instance, as soon as the system is in and you've programmed email addresses or even mobile numbers for texts, engineers, key personnel on site, whether that's in production or the engineering teams, will start to get alerts when machines break through alarm. And ways in which we've also seen it deployed is where our customers, where we've fitted local displays to the machine so that the operators can see what parts of the line are, say, running hot at that time. They'll then alert a passing engineer, and it's just been a really sort of effective way of aiding communication and forming, in the most part, like the basis for a morning meeting. It could be great to sort of huddle around the wireless sensor screen in the maintenance workshop before shift starts or during handover, and we can start to have discussions there, sort of backed up by then basically here the reliability team's recommendations, and obviously the feedback from the guys on site who can see what's going on, or feedback, this is why it's increased. We've seen it before under this product going over the line, we're quite happy to either run, or we can go in and start making maintenance recommendations based on obviously the data that we're seeing. But it's already proved really valuable for the communication between myself and the guys on site. Straight away, sort of at Tissue Paper Factory, see them engaged with the condition monitoring program like never before. They'll be sort of picking up the phone as we're monitoring it and saying, I've seen this alarm is now yellow. Why is it yellow? Is it something product related, or is perhaps the lubrication needing looked at? And it's just allowing for a more collaborative service from ourselves, and the customer is extremely engaged, which is it's so important for a condition monitoring program, because if we don't get the feedback from the efforts that the guys are making on site, it doesn't work as efficiently. So to have that open dialogue, them see the alarms, start to tie it in with, oh, it's influenced by this, that, and another. Then it's a key piece of learning equipment, and for me, it's the closest that it's ever looked like a customer has control over their own condition monitoring program, but obviously with the expert advice on hand in the form of Neutronic in a lot of these cases. So if we just start to take a look at how we at Neutronic manage the install, what will basically happen is, in the first instance, one of our engineers will come to site and firstly fit the gateway and the Bluetooth repeaters. This will ensure that obviously the signal on site is sufficient and there's no sort of black spots where we'll be likely to sort of suffer any outages in the communication between the sensors and the gateway. So by installing sufficient repeaters, we'll ensure that obviously the network's strong, and communication back to the gateway is never an issue. When it comes to actually fitting the sensors themselves, there's a lot of different options, whether it's from the glued, drilled and tapped, or a magnetic sensor. That the flexibility with how we can install the sensor means that there's something for every site and every scenario that we come across. It's not a one size fits all. Some sites have a combination of all, and some sites aren't able to have, say, the glued studs for health and safety reasons, if it's in a sort of like a food and drink environment where they perhaps can't use certain substances, etc., and have the risk of a sensor becoming detached. We can install the sensors at a time that suits you. So obviously, we don't want to stop the machine, because that's completely counterproductive and not what condition monitoring is about. So we obviously plan this in around whether it's a planned in maintenance shutdown, or if your running hours for your site are, if they're 9 to 5, say, we can come in at a timeout with your production hours and manage the install at a time that's convenient to you, so that we always protect your production, because that at the end of the day is our motivation. Your production is really the key marker for the success of the condition monitoring program. From a first instance, what's the easiest way to get a gateway installed is to start it up off of its own 4G network and wireless, which is completely secure. But what it allows you to do is get a system in place without having to wait for all of the IT authorizations, which in the past, as obviously, as we all know, can lead to delays. So by starting off with a sort of an external network in there, it allows it to be a really quick install, and the second the sensors are in place and the gateway's powered up, we're receiving data. That doesn't mean to say that you can't retro sort of spec it to take it into an internal network. That's entirely possible, and it's something that we've done in the past, whereby we got it set up quickly with its own 4G module. And then we put it on the in-house server once the IT were happy with the data and the security of the system. So a couple of points here that we've already touched upon. Obviously, the battery life of the sensors is incredible with the 3 to 5 years. But one of the most key points that I'd like to stress, and it's so relevant at the minute with obviously the pandemic that we've experienced and the effects of that. From our point of view, sites where we've continued with the traditional handheld data collection as opposed to the wireless monitoring. Obviously, that handheld collection relies heavily on me being able to go to site. So during times of the pandemic, this wasn't possible. So the sites that obviously had their wireless condition monitoring already in place remained protected throughout the pandemic because I was able to assist them remotely with analysis and even the database management side of things. I'm able to add new machines, relocate sensors, or even change the alarm settings for specific sensors. Everything can be managed remotely. The sensors will continue collecting data, and anything that does need to be done can be we can work together if it requires, say, like a gateway reset or a software upgrade from your side. There's nothing that can't be managed remotely with a little bit of help where needed. So with feedback from our customers, we've been working on offering packages which are suitable no matter what your budget is. That starts with the troubleshooting kit, which is basically, we've used it as a free trial kit. That's something that's going to be available to anybody that contacts us following this webinar. We can also use it as a troubleshooting kit in instances for short-term hires. And then we've started at points of small sensor installs from as little as, say, 12 sensors, really focusing in on the most critical items on site, whether that's your rinser fillers if you're in a brewery setting, or perhaps some really critical pumps on site that you just can't be without, or those extract fans that the machine relies on to keep running. And obviously, we can start if budget allows. We can put in up to 150 sensors per gateway. That doesn't ever limit you to 150 sensors because we can link a gateway to a gateway. So that then obviously becomes 300, and from there it's infinite. What we will also offer is if you have further sites across the UK and you want to start at one site, we can cover that site initially, and then as you obviously upscale across that site and bring other sites on board, there's bulk buy discounts available. So that conversation from the off is always something worth having, because there's always something that we can do there to make it a cost-effective program for yourselves. If you consider yourself to be a forward-thinking engineer or production manager, then I'd urge you to get in touch today to find out how Neutronic can help you improve your reliability and increase your production on your site. Please give us a call, email, or visit the website to find out more. Lastly, I'd just like to finish by saying thank you for partaking in today's condition monitoring webinar.